in social work. He is a graduate of Victoria School of Social Sciences. He has PhD in social work, Masters of Community Development, Bachelor's of Social Work, and Diploma of Social Work. He is an accredited member of Social Work Institute of Australia. It is a body that accredited social workers. Dr. Abur has been in academia and published a number of scientific peer-reviewed journal articles. And he is here to share his new area within the social work. There is a challenge in academia and within the industry. How do you manage critical social work within the Indigenous community, and particularly in this era of COVID-19? With you today is Dr. William Abur. He's a lecturer at Deakin University, where he is leading both the research and the teaching body of work within this particular critical area. He published a chapter in a book that has just been released. And out of that chapter, he's going to discuss the critical issues that the social workers and practitioners within the Indigenous communities and group face on day-to-day business activities. So I'm here to present to you Dr. William Abur, and my name is Dr. Ajak Duanya Ajak. I'm the host, and Dr. William Abur is the main speaker. This particular recording, webinar, is an academic, scientifically peer-reviewed work that is proprietary to the practitioners, and it is a proven concept. So for those who have registered for this webinar, you will have a bonus slide show to use. And for those who are watching it live, you will just benefit, but we encourage you always register. And next time, we will try to encourage everyone to be within the room, but we share it such that the whole society and globally, everyone must benefit from it. Thank you, Dr. William Abur. You can kick it off.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Ajak. I appreciate the opportunity, and I also appreciate the introduction that you have just made. Today, for the benefit of audience, I just wanted to thank the participant or the audience who are also, registered or participate on this forum, and to those who are going to listen to this webinar. Now, as you just heard from the introduction, so today I'm discussing the chapter which I have wrote this year, and the book was published. So this chapter is about critical social work. So we look at issues from social work and also from Indigenous point of view. So with that, I wanted to move quickly to give you what are the things that I'm going to discuss. So first, I would be touching base about the chapter and the book. And then I will also discuss a bit about a critical social work, as well as I wanted also to touch what I call positionality. As somebody from Indigenous point of view, or from a community that is also one of the marginalized community point of view. And then we look at the decolonizing social work. What does that mean when we say decolonizing social work, or what does it mean when we talk about critical social work? So feel free to ask some question if you have a question. There is also a chance for us to have a discussion later where people can be able to put some question. As I mentioned the overview, so I wrote a chapter in and that was published in the book, and the book was the Indigenous knowledge. When we talk about Indigenous, of course, in Australia, we have Indigenous Australians, but we also look at these issues from international point of view. So you would find some of the things that we discuss here are applied internationally. And that is why I will be talking about decolonizing social work. Where does social work come from? and why do we want to decolonizing. So the chapter and the book are available online for those who may want to access it, but unfortunately, it is controlled by the company. So you may be require, maybe they may ask you, to pay something for you to have access to the book or to have access to the chapter, which is the normal procedures for the for the academic papers or academic publishers, that they control those things. But there is also a platform which is free, the platform that is created now for the community, which is this current platform that we are discussing, the key point that came out from that chapter. And this can be accessed by, by the audience, that the community can access it, and people can listen to us, people can read, through the PowerPoint presentation. So first, I wanted to discuss, what do we mean when we say critical social work? What is that? How do we define critical social work? So in a simple term, a critical social work is referred to the debates, those debate around social issues. And I will touch those social issues as I go in a minute. So it is, we refer debate around critical social issues, and also the social injustice issues. And it is about empowering for marginalizing community group and also individuals. So we look at the issues that are very concerning to the community. For example, in the African communities that are settling in Australia, there are some critical social issues that are facing them. For example, the parenting is one of the critical issues that is facing the newly emerged, migrant community, because of cultural, the cultural clashes or social change. You would find that parenting is become more challenging for some of the migrants that has arrived here, and that include, the South Sudanese community, for example, or the African community, for example. Um, the other thing that we talk about, a critical social issues could be somebody who is incarcerated. We have a lot of young people that are incarcerated, that are put in in prison because of some reasons, and there might be those young people or adults that are put in a prison. There are also underlying issues. There is no anybody that can just go and act, you know, um, that can participate in criminal activities without.
Yes, Dr. William Abur is coming.
Yes, so so it's one of the issue that we look at. We look at even mental health issues is one of the critical issues that is facing people. Employment, for example, is one of the issues that we discuss. And if we look at it from indigenous point of view, we look at the cultural, the cultural issues, the practice that encourage a cultural understanding, that encourage, both embrace the theory from indigenous point of view, and also, you know uh, uh, that embrace the community expectation, as well as what was existing before the European came in, what how the community were governing themselves, what support, how do they be, what were the issues that they how do they manage themselves, their families, their community or their countries, how did they manage themselves. So we look at this incorporating indigenous knowledge, and that is where it become, a critical social work from indigenous point of view, or from indigenous perspective, and that apply, the indigenous point of view that I'm putting it here. It apply, for example, in Canada. There are indigenous group in Canada. In New Zealand, for example, there are indigenous people in New Zealand, and there are things that they disagree when it comes to the social work practice. But when you incorporate the understanding of the community and the way that the community work, the way that they value the family, each and every family got their own value, their own way of living, their own way of doing things. So it become now we decolonize, the concept which was the European concept, and it is brought into the indigenous concept and decolonize it and incorporate the indigenous perspective. So social work itself is very critical. It play an important role in terms of supporting families, supporting young people, supporting other people with a complex need, such as people with disability, elderly people. Those groups are the people that need a much support from social work point of from social work perspective or social work services. So without social work, in um, in this context, um, it is hard for the community. It is hard for the community, for those individuals sometimes, to be able to navigate the complicated system and to be able to support themselves. And I give you the example. This year, during the COVID lockdown, when the nine towers, the nine high rise in Melbourne, were locked, were locked down by the government. So the community, those families that were living there, were crying literally, and they were saying, "Well, we should have been sent us a social worker that can come and talk to us, a social worker that can come and support us, rather than sending out the police." So we wanted to talk to the social work. We feel safe, to talk to the social workers. We don't feel safe to talk to the police or to the government authorities. But if the social work come in, we know that they will be able to listen to us. They will be able, to take our message. They will be able to support us. So social work across with a marginalized community group. They also work with people who are institutionally marginalized, and that include the group of people that are in prison, for example. So those groups in prisons are much more supported by the social workers. Whether there are social workers that go in there to support them, and when they are also released, there are social workers that come in to support them. When they are released to the community, that is the role of social work. From the broad perspective. So we deal with the injustice issues. We practice a safe, uh, to ensure that there are safety within the community. There are, a right support is given to each and every individual within the community, or it could be children that may need a support. So in my work, as somebody who work with indigenous community within Australia, I have experienced and hear a lot. I learn a lot from indigenous communities. I learn about their way of doing things. I learn about the challenging issues they are faced. For example, discriminations, lack of poor health, and lack of support services within the community, and that extend to the remote area. For example, if you look at in a remote area, you would even see even the houses are very much poor. So the people who live in the cities, for example, in Melbourne, you wouldn't believe that there are people in the countryside, in a remote area in Northern Territory that need a much support. So social work is a profession which is growing, is growing largely within indigenous communities. So because it gives them, you know, it gives them, it empowered them, it gives people voice, it gives people to be able to support themselves within the community. So you would find that a lot of people would have interest in this area of social work. And of course, talking about being somebody from South Sudanese community and looking at what happened from our country, if we were really people um, who think that the society need a better support, social work would actually do more better work within within those cities such as Juba, Wow, Malakal, Bor, Madingbo town, those areas, even a remote area, you would find that social workers, well trained social workers, will come in and support the community and support the individual and support those children that that are very much neglected by the government and or neglected by by the system. And if we were to organize ourselves, those children would be being supported well. So social work, critical social work generally, look critical social work generally look at the issues from the oppressing issues that are oppressive to the society, issues that are affecting the society, for example. So those are the issues that the social work is concerned, and social work pick them up, and social work address them. So I said, as I said, there's a lot of people from indigenous point of view that are also, very much of their own personal experience, family experience, and they are being a victim of a serious issue that may happen, or past stories that is still a major issue within indigenous perspective. But social work alongside to ensure that those people are well supported, and of course, the idea is now is to train people within those communities and to be able to get back to their own communities and support their own people. And that's where the decolonizing social work come from. That's where the idea bringing the social work into indigenous point of view has come from. Now, being a social worker who work in a field, and I have witnessed it, many people that have been marginalized. For example, young people that are marginalized, young people from migrant perspective, young people that are being discriminated in either in school or in workplace. Uh, some people that are mistreated because of their background, or being from indigenous community, or being from African community, or being from Asian community. These are the things that are happening within Australian community if you look at it. So those are the things that in my practice, in my work as a social worker, I have seen this. I've seen a lot of these things happen, in many places, in workplace, and also, at the school setting, at the hospital setting, at, shopping centers, or even, the neighborhood. These things are very serious issues that are happening. The same thing also happened. We do. I've seen this thing in overseas before I came here. Before I came to Australia, I have seen how people were marginalized in the camp, for example. How people are, being treated. Those who were living in the camp, how they were being treated by the police, as the refugees, or how the other, the government treated some of the poor group that don't have power. Those are the things that uh, that I have seen as somebody who is trained in this field and who is also passionate in working in this field. But I'm also passionate in the idea of decolonizing social work. Uh, Now, if you work with the community, you are not supposed to bring a foreign concept and put it in the community. You need, yes, you can bring that the ideas from a foreign concept, but you need also to ensure that the community concept is blended for that concept to work within the community. You need to be able to incorporate the community perspective. So there are researchers that are indigenous people and that are also social workers that are conducting research, and they are doing a lot of documentation in this area, in the area of decolonizing social work. So people that are working, with the elders, that are also looking at the local culture issues, that are looking at the local knowledge, that are looking at the local issues such as environment. So what do people say about climate change within within the different communities? So social workers do do a lot of work in this area. So you would find that there is also indigenous right movement that have that concept resonate with indigenous people. And as I said, if you look at it in Canada, in New Zealand, in America, and also in other part of of the world, such as in Africa, we have people that are now talking about uh, you know bringing social work from indigenous point of view. And if you look at what we call, I just wrote a paper which has been submitted, and I wrote a paper about Ubuntu, for example, which is the concept in Africa, and is a concept that is very much resonate with the social work. So we are doing a book now. We are writing a book about Ubuntu, doing Ubuntu social work. So we are bringing that concept, which is the African concept, to the social work and decolonizing that into the African perspective, for example. With the same thing with Indigenous Australia, that are also writing this, the concept of social work into the community, indigenous community perspective, and incorporate how the kingship within the indigenous community is high, how it is respected, and how the community, deal with it. How do the community manage some of the issues within the community, as community come and look at construct uh, their knowledge or their ideas or the way that they organize themselves, the way that they communicate knowledge to the young generation. For example, there is what we call yarning circle, where the community members sit, and you find the elders are telling the story, and it's a concept which is really, in Africa, you would find in the evening, when everybody settle, you would find a elderly person is telling the story to the young generation, and around, when people sit around the fire and they tell the story. And that is a beautiful time that people are learning. Those kids, those young generation are learning, are listening, to the elderly person, and they are learning very much. And that is the way that the community organize themselves. But it was not documented until the writers need to come in and document this thing and say, well, uh, we need to decolonize, the social work and bring it into the community perspective and incorporate the way that the community do things, community recognizing themselves, community deal with the different issues, different signs within the society. So that is the concept that we use as a decolonizing concept within the social work. So with this, I have spoken, I have given the overview of what critical social work is. I've spoken about decolonizing. I've given the context about the, the chapter or the book, but I wanted to give people opportunity to be able to ask question, and it's a time for us to dialogue, or to, to just to have a discussion, question and discussion at this moment. But I will leave this to Dr. Ajak to facilitate this part. Otherwise, I'm happy for people to throw in question if there is an area that needs some clarification. Thank you.
Thanks, William. I hope you can hear me. But just before I go on, your camera is a little bit up. Can't see you. Is it
Oh,
a network or something?
I think so. I thought you turn it. So I
Now,
thought.
it just went off from your end. But all in all,
Yep.
look, people who have registered for the conference, I think they should have just gone through their emails and come back.
Yep.
But for whatever reason, since we are live, the webinar was meant to be indoor. That's why we choose this platform. But since this is a very critical concept, we will edit the video and play it live, and later at a later stage.
Yep.
But then we will make it public until a certain point where we will have it close in to encourage
Okay.
people. So, but for now, the thing that I would want to ask you, William, is look, you have touched very well on a critical concept.
Yep.
The critical concept of social issue that comes into the social work sector, and it is a sector that has been more critical in this era than any other period before us. The generation that came before us had a very loose concept of social work. What I meant is it was not crystallized, it was not formalized to the level it is nowadays. And considering that society has gone through a lot
Yep.
for the last 12 months or so, with the issues of COVID-19 restrictions and things like that, is there something that you can touch for the benefit of the audience and people who are going to view it at a later stage? Is there anything you can touch about how will this change the way social work is being practiced? Remember, the social worker used to go sit with the client, talk.
Yep.
Now, the way you are presenting,
Yep.
it was the old ways. You would have just been in a big conference hall and you
Yep.
are before 2,000 people. Now you are virtually live, and,
Yep.
and you are talking to people. So in the future, and now, and we don't know the future yet,
Yep.
how is this affecting the social work, and how are you practicing it when society is going through tumultuous times, and
Yep.
social workers are needed more than ever before, and everyone restricted, and with the restriction, based on your experience as a professional social worker, person who is practicing in the
Yep.
sector as well as in academia?
Thank you, Dr. Ajak. Now, with the challenges that we face currently, the COVID-19 challenges that restricted the movements of people, and that includes the social workers. So you would find a lot of people are delivering what we call online sessions at the moment. So online session or online counseling are the most highly way of delivering services at the moment. So you would find, for example, myself, we supervise students that are doing social work, in the field, for example. So we used to go in the field to visit them and meet with the students that are doing social work, and also the supervisors in the field. That is not the case this year and last year. So most of the meeting is done online and through Zoom or Team or whatever platform software that can allow you to have a meeting and have a discussion as if you are in the same room with the group of people that are discussing matters with you. So now the question is, what about people who are highly vulnerable that may not be able to navigate the technology? How do they get support? Yes, another one way is through phones, where people either contact them and try to have a chat with them. If it is not working, then the home visit is possible. That's where the priority can be given to that particular family or to that particular client, and then a home visit is done, and that home visit can be managed using the COVID-19 protocols, where the distance need to be respected. You wear masks. You got to keep yourself clean, or sanitizing. All those requirements are the new thing that are in brought in. But before, you know, it was just social workers do their normal job. They go and visit their families, visit their client, meet with their client somewhere where they can discuss, privately, or they can sit and discuss issues, social issues. But now it's very challenging. But the society is learning, and society is finding the new ways of dealing with these current issues.
Yeah.
Now,
Yeah.
yep,
Yeah. I was gonna just add in there, and I was just thinking with the COVID-19 and the protocol, and every time there is a shutdown in the state, particularly for us here in Australia, we will not talk much about other countries because there is no unified position on how nations respond to COVID-19.
yep,
But let's reduce it within the boundaries of Australia and where you are practicing and where you are licensed to practice. Whenever there is a bit of a flare up or a surge in cases,
yep,
you'll find a state acting unilaterally, shutting down and putting out the list of the essential services.
yep,
And even seeing a GP was reduced to kind of a virtual consultation.
yep,
And considering the vulnerability of certain segment of the society
mm,
and the indigenous people,
yep,
which is the critical area of practice, the segment that appear to have been disadvantaged, not many of them will navigate. You can, yes, say call, make a phone call, and things like that. But at the end of the day, you will still find that they are disadvantaged. Do you see any change in participation rate or take up of services? And if there is there a mechanism that you can devise as a social worker, some of the vulnerable members in the indigenous communities and the new and emerging communities,
yep,
like the new immigrant which have been coming to Australia in the last 15 years, including the South Sudanese community as well. Is
yep.
there something you can say about that?
Um, Look, it's good question, Jack. Unfortunately, what happened in a society, people who are at the high need of support sometimes find themselves they don't have capacity to seek help compared to those during last year and this year, for example. Most of the people that are accessing the online support services are people who are capable, who just said, well, I'm having a bad movement at the moment. So they can make a phone call, and they said, well, I'm having a terrible day. I'm having difficulties here. I need a bit of support, or I need someone to give me to order this thing on for me. But those people who are in a very high level of vulnerability, sometimes they miss out. Sometimes they don't even have capacity to say, well, I need to call somebody uh, to be able to ask for support. These are the people that we pay too much attention as the social workers, and especially those social workers who are the case managers for those individuals. So they have a responsibility to ensure that these people are checked now and then. They are also asked, and you can also, they are visited and delivered whatever services that they need, whether it is food, whether it is medication, or whether they need to go to the doctor. those are the support that the social workers has to manage and ensure that they deliver those services to them. But the general community, um, um, this year and last year, for example, mental health in Australia is it has been at the higher level. A lot of people are seeking for support. They are seeking for mental health services, and that is the sign of how vulnerable the society is, how the COVID-19 affect the community. And if you look at the budget, Victoria, when they delivered the budget, the first they prioritize mental health highly. That is the area that they are going to invest a lot of money in to support people, to support the community. So having said that, my my message to to the vulnerable community groups such as Africans, migrants, or indigenous is that take the step and take the courage and seek support. Those services are there for you. They are there to support you. So you don't need to miss out. You can put your hand up and ask for support and ask for a social worker. You can actually request for a social worker when you go and see your GP, or you see whatever that you want to see and things are not working well. You could actually request for a social worker and say, well, I need a social worker, and they can be able to refer you to the social worker that can support you. So take a responsibility to initiate, uh, you know, um, the support. I know that there is a myth within the migrant communities, or about social work as social workers as a group of people that can come and maybe look at the children and take the children away. No, that is not true. They can't just take the children away when both parents are capable. They only do that when there is a risk, when there is a high level of harm, when there is a high level of risk, to the children. Then that is where someone need to make a decision in terms of duty of care and protect the vulnerable person, such as children. And that's where all this mess come from. So, in brief, I encourage the community to be able to seek for support from, social work, counselors, and other, support, such as you may seek a support in your church. Uh, you know, um, the pastors, the priests are well trained in this area, in the area of supporting people that may need support. So you may request and say, "Oh, yeah, yeah, I need to have a chat with my pastor or with my priest," and they can be able to support you and keep that, whatever issue that you are going through. They may be able to listen to you, to give you that opportunity there, to tell your story and listen to you and validate and support you at that moment.
Oh, all right, Dr. William. You mentioned very critical point there, and I think that's what people don't realize. Every time you go to your GP, what Dr. William is saying, you can always ask for the sexual work. And lastly, maybe you can touch it briefly and we'll end it.
Yep.
The stigma and understanding of the social workers. As you say, there is that connotation when you invited a social worker into your affairs, they will come with other load of issues,
Yep.
like taking away children. And I think people don't realize there's a difference between the social worker is there to support you, but feel free to touch on
Yep.
how is that message being passed to the community. And I think that they need social workers at this particular point in time than any other point.
Yep.
You mentioned the budget, and what is happening here is that the cost of living is going up. The budget try to address mental health has become an issue.
Yep.
Isolation has caused a bit of stress in both young and adult.
Yep.
Areas which were some sectors of the economy were heavily affected by COVID, so
Yep.
jobs were lost, and some jobs may not even come back. So people are going through tremendous stress, and
Yep.
the challenges are enormous.
Yep.
And it is time to start looking for help, at least to explore your option. But that stigma that when you go for sexual worker, it is a connotation that attached with as if you have failed to handle your own thing. How is that barrier being broken down among the indigenous community groups and also the new and emerging communities like the South Sudanese in particular?
Yes, it is still an issue, Dr. Jack. It's a challenging issue within the venerable community groups. So you would find that people are saying, well, social workers come in to look at issues that are affecting my children, and they may, cause a problem for the government to come in and take my children. That is not the case from a social work trained point of view. You are trained to work with families and individuals. You are there to support them, to provide the support as much as you could based on their interests, based on what they want to achieve in their life. Unless it is a situation when there is a high level of risk that are being identified, then somebody need to intervene to say, well, we can't let this person down. Whether he's an elderly person within the family that has been abused or neglected, or whether it is, is a children that have been affected by domestic violence or what other issues that are happening that cause a neglect, children to be neglected within the families. So the social workers can come in and make a recommendation and say, well, there are serious issues here that need to be addressed. These children need a safe place, and that's when when the parents are assessed and that they don't have capacity to support their own children, or there are no closer relatives that are there to support the children. That is where the recommendation is to be made to the government, and government will authorize, will make a decision to say, well, these children need to be removed. But that does not come from a social work point of view. For example, in child protection, the area of child protection is the area that most of the social workers, they go and work there for, they don't work there long. They just work there 6 months or couple of years and then leave, because they find that it's very highly, uh, very highly challenging area, and they don't want to deal with those. So a lot of social workers with a high level of experience, sometimes they don't stay there in child protection area, and child protection area department rely now to the university to recruit the new social workers that are graduating from universities, so that they can go in that workforce to do the work that the government want them to do. Otherwise, you know, there's no way the social work is saying we stand with the vulnerable people, and then go and break the families and cause a lot of problem. Then that does not really sit with the values of social work.
Absolutely. Thank you, Dr. William. Just the last thing which I want to say is I appreciate your time, and I think the video will be edited eventually later on to
Yep.
make it cleaner, and
Yep.
then it will be auto restreamed at some stage. But for those who are interested in social work, and my wife included, she
Yep.
is a student of social work. we,
Yep.
we we have taken different career paths, and she's people-oriented person, and it's
Oh,
one of
good.
the sectors which is growing actually,
Yeah.
and there is a demand for the social workers, the real qualified social workers with experience. So you are right. If anyone, the viewers, may be interested here in Australia to study the area of social work, feel free to reach to Dr. William Abu. His detail will be straight
Yep.
from the Deakin University website, the
Yep.
building number and everything, provided that there's no lockdown. But always you can reach to Dr. William Abu. And if you need a reference material, Dr. William Abu has, with his other colleague within the academia, there is this nice book where he has written a chapter, contribute with about decolonizing social work into indigenous communities, and the chapter title is critical social work from the indigenous perspective. It is critical area that is studied within universities. So feel free to grab a copy of a book. Yes, unfortunately, good things are never free. So, so it's not free. It's not Dr. Williams selling it, but
Yeah.
in academia, we publish work. It takes us a lot of hard work, a lot of serious peer review. But when it go on to the publishers, it become intellectual property for publishing houses. Yeah. So it's not Dr. William, and unfortunately, Dr. William will not give you the book free because he has handed it over to the publishing house. So just go and Google critical social work from indigenous perspective. And I think I've looked at your profile, and if you go to Dr. William page within Deakin University, you'll see a lot of paperwork, a lot of journal article, actually, peer-reviewed journal, scientific journal article with prestigious journals. So if you are interested in research, feel free, in that particular area of social work, feel free to contact Dr. William Abur, and we are more than happy to connect you on this platform. We run FPD Institute. It is where we share research, learn from each other, as I've just learned few things about social work today. And next time, I may be talking about data science and natural resource management, which is mining engineering and data science. So I will take these opportunities to say thank you, Dr. William. You have given your time. We will continue to share on this platform. The platform is new, is young, and most of the people sometimes find it difficult to navigate the technology. As you said, it is a challenge to everybody. Challenge to the social workers, challenge to people within the workforce and the industry. So thank you for your time, and we'll appreciate and say it. Let's talk later. Let's keep the discussion going. Let's share the knowledge. And for our viewers, if you really, really need to have some of the work published, PowerPoint slide, please do consider to join by subscribing and requesting a copy, and I will make it available to you. So thank you, and thank Dr. William. Have a good weekend. And
thank you. Thank you.
Bye-bye. See you later.
Thank you. Take care. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you very much.